Welcome to the Intercut podcast channel, where we are recapping some of the most notable premieres from the 2025 Sundance Film Festival. I'm your co-host, Zachary Shevich, joined by my co-host, Arturo Zurita, and coming to us from the remote island we like to call Canada, it's Amanda the Jedi, and we are talking about the film, The Ballad of Wallis Island. The Ballad of Wallis Island is a new diegetic musical about an eccentric lottery winner named Charles, played by Tim Key, who invites his favorite musician named Herb, played by Tom Basden, to an exclusive private gig. The only problem is Charles hasn't told Herb that he's also invited Herb's ex-bandmate and ex-girlfriend Nell, who is played by Carey Mulligan. Tom Basden and Tim Key co-wrote the film, which is being distributed by Focus Features here in the States, where it will be in theaters on March 28th this year. We had the chance to watch it at Sundance. Arturo, you glad you caught this one early?
Yeah, I got to accidentally go to the premiere. It was one of those days that because we were at the Eccles, we were like, I guess let's do another one, or just walk back to the Airbnb. We had a little bit of a wiggle room to be able to catch things at the Eccles this year. And I was like, all right, let's go see it. I had this not high at all. I said, Carey Mulligan is maybe due for me. I thought Wildflower. She had one that was directed by, what's his name?
Wildlife?
Wildlife,
thank you. Yeah, the Paul Dano movie. That one premiered at Sundance. I was like, all right, this is cute. Will I have the energy?
Promising Young Woman, also a Sundance movie.
Yeah.
And that's where I was like, okay, what is she going to give me here? I should be due.
Yeah.
Boy, was I due. I came out of this one ecstatic. Something just did it for me, and my crowd gave it a standing ovation. It was the longest one. I would not record any of those, but that day I was just getting hit with back-to-back ones at the Eccles, and out of all of them, that felt the realest. That didn't feel like I'm clapping because that story is very important. It's happening in real life.
Yeah. Yeah.
This was like people just loved the energy of this movie. I had no idea really what it was going to be about, but as Zach broke it down, it ends up being a much more delightful tale of this dude who's grieving. But unlike all the grieving movies we got this year, where it would be a metaphor of a fairy or a bird or whatever else, they made it music. They made it this idea of
the universal
relive these memories. It's such a beautiful story, right? Because when you have a partner and they're gone, can you relive all those memories and have those same moments the same way that two musicians who made magic together with music, can they come back together without all that baggage, or is it done? I liked it from all angles, the music, the comedy, all of it. It really worked for me.
I agree. I also was very charmed by this. I'm so glad I managed to fit it in my schedule. I would kill for Charles.
Charles was so adorable, bro.
He was so adorable, and he's.
I know I'm Charles.
Dude, and it's like he's one of those characters.
If something were to happen, I'm Charles, bro.
He's annoying to the character, but they managed to juggle it in a way that he's never annoying to the audience, which I think is key. Because sometimes there's characters that are like, I'm exasperated while you're exasperated. This, I'm like, I get he'd be so annoying to deal with, but this is so sweet and funny and wholesome. I just loved it. I love how many levels, because obviously the main character we're really following is Herb, but I feel like that is really just a covert his growth through experiencing Charles, and it ends up being beautiful with that. But there's just this entire world in this other character who he's just unintentionally or just in a very weird turn of events ended up around. I love it. Also, one of the most important things about this type of movie, the music has to be good. I would, if there was a Mortimer Maguire album to go out and buy, I'd have it.
The reunion. I mean,
I'd have it. You know?
I mean, we've seen her in Llewyn Davis, right?
Yeah.
She's married, and she even said it when they asked, "Who would you do a reunion thing for?" She goes, "My husband is Marcus Mumford." So there was like really big Mumford and Sons vibes. I love how they perform the music. As Zach had put it, it's very diegetic, where you are seeing them come together to perform it for him or to practice. And those scenes
There's no like music video sequences or cut to like running through the meadows with music magically piped over them. They are performing these songs in the context of the movie and for us, the viewing audience. Yeah.
So it's serving in multiple ways. Like, I really love it. I'm hesitant to say it's the best one because we got Lurker. Woo! And that was very
Lurker's
good.
music, no, that last. And apparently, according to him, we should get an album. Now that it got picked up by who
You're
it got
talking
picked
about
up by. Yeah, Lurker should have an album.
So what
or
about
at least
the
the
Mortimer
songs
one?
being released.
What news you got about the Mortimer Double LP.
That I don't know yet. Who picked it up? Where's that
Well,
going?
this is Focus,
yeah, that one is
so
coming out. That one is
you
coming out.
probably are
It's
getting
already
it.
good.
Look,
Yeah.
it does feel when you're watching it like a really big picture. It's going to be playing at South by. You can tell a studio is behind it. But this to me is like the most mainstream, delightful movie to be able to recommend to people.
Yeah, I've seen some comparisons with this one to movies like Once or Sing Street.
I think so, yeah.
Because it's kind of in that realm. Last year at Sundance, we had both Flora and Son and Kneecap. There is something about this that feels a little bit bigger, but at the same way, it also is kind of small. Like, this is a very low-key movie.
It is.
When there's conflict, it never really raises above the level of, like, aggravation. There's probably fewer than 10 people in the whole cast, maybe 5 or 6 locations. And it might have felt more like that if it weren't for, like, the gorgeous Welsh seaside backdrops that most of this film is shot on. That really does help give it a bit of, like a vacation-y feel.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, yeah. And they use every part of that island. Every part of his house, every part of that store, every part of that phone booth. They really deliver on it. They had mentioned that there's a short, like from the 2000s.
It began as a short in 2008, but they've refined it to this point, and obviously they spend a lot of time crafting the music to get it to this point as well.
I guess
Also
the short
the
is
humor.
called. Sorry. I guess the short is called "The One and Only Herb Maguire Plays Wallis Island," and it's on YouTube right now.
Yeah, that's a worse title for sure.
It is for sure, but
Excuse me. They had also mentioned.
Honestly, I don't actually really like the title of this movie. I feel like
didn't like it either. That's why I
it's
wasn't
too fucking
hyped
long.
up for it. I was like, "What is this?"
Just call it Wallis Island. Just
Wait,
like the
right,
ballad
we already
of
got a
it's
ballad.
too much. It's too much.
we already got a ballad with the Hunger Games and stuff.
It's
but,
too much.
Hey, I agree with
Because
you.
that
Also,
turned me off. But yeah, you're right.
I'm not teetering on his annoyance.
Yes.
It's 99 minutes, and that's exactly what it needed to be. They had mentioned a 2-hour cut because he's ad-libbing.
Yeah, of course.
When they asked him, how'd you write those lines? He's like, you can't write these lines. There is an
It's a
ad-lib
lot of
version.
like word association mumbo jumbo where
and then
he will just
knowing he's being annoying, but he can't
Yeah.
stop. He's just
Yes.
like, sorry.
It's very much in the realm of like Steve Martin would say, you're not coming up with a punchline as much as the situational comedy of what's happening at that moment.
Yes.
He is just
Yeah.
reacting to what's happening in whatever instance because he's this quirky, over the top guy. Maybe this is the best version, but I'd be curious for the deleted scenes.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You both mentioned responding to the music. I think I maybe responded to the music a little bit less than I did in some of those other movies I mentioned, and maybe that's what's keeping me from loving it quite as much as both of you love it. But I guess that is sort of like a situational thing. Like if you just think like the music in Flora and Son is really beautiful, then that movie is going to speak to you a little bit more
Yeah.
and stuff. But it is like a really genuinely sweet movie. Like I would find it hard to imagine watching this film and either having a bad time or coming out of it in a bad mood unless you're going into it like really cynical.
Yeah, I always feel there's those movies where you can give it a high rating, but the worst case is that I can recommend it to anybody knowing it won't go lower than a 3.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
Like it
And
is
I'm
a
confident with this one.
solidly entertaining and it's a good hang. It's very sweet.
I was just going to say, it's so sweet.
Yeah. It to me, it felt almost like I was waiting a little bit for something bigger. Like, oh, we have to do a festival to save the island or
Yeah.
something
I'm
like that.
glad
And
it
and
didn't
it never
do that.
gets to that
Does
place.
it?
But I'm glad
Yeah.
it doesn't do that because then it probably would have felt too cheesy for me and too annoying.
Right.
I like that this was just like this weird little thing where it's like personal growth. It is literally just like personal growth, the movie across a couple characters. And it's like really beautiful. I like that it stayed so small. Like, so good. I honestly, if it had done like we have to save the island, I would have been like, I'm out. Like
Oh, yeah,
mentally,
you went
I'm
a
like,
little too
ugh.
far, yeah. It's just so funny
Cheesy.
because there are situations, without spoiling it, there's one where he shows him a wall. He's like, this is why we're in this situation because
so
of this
good.
thing. And he
Okay, but
walks
that doesn't
over
explain
and he shows,
this.
and then he shows another one, and I was like, this is so dumb.
And then it ends, and I'm like, couldn't ask for it to happen to a nicer person.
It couldn't have happened to a nicer person.
Yeah.
No. Like I said, this one is playing at South by, and this and Together we have mentioned what South by movies like these are with a crowd that is in there for music, that is in there for the midnight horror hype. Those two movies I think are definitely going to kill. I think they're great selections to have over there.
I
But
think
like
this
Zach
should be the
mentioned,
closing night. I think this should be
Oh,
the
can you
closing
ima-
night
yeah.
movie.
Be a
I
better
think they're
pick probably
trying
than
to.
on Swift Horses.
I think they're trying to recreate the excitement of the idea view from last year and went with whatever their closest big rom-com thing is. And I guess they thought this was that would be like Jacob Elordi was gonna be the closest thing they could get to
that's a good call.
Galaxian.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it got shit reviews out of TIFF, so I don't know.
Exactly. So if you have to make it a movie that already played at a fest,
Make
this
it a
would have
good
been a
one.
killer one. Yeah. But no, really liked it.
Yeah.
Were either of you at all surprised by the size of Carey Mulligan's part in that she's like easily the third or maybe even fourth biggest role in this film?
I liked it. I was pleasantly surprised.
Me too.
I thought she was the lead. Yeah.
I didn't think she was the lead. I think maybe it's because I actually didn't realize that was Carey Mulligan in the poster when I read the synopsis. It wasn't until we did our recap that I was like, oh, it's Carey Mulligan.
Yeah. Because she's billed first, so I assumed. But
I didn't even see the billing. I guess I was kind of like, usually I go by title, and the title was honestly, I was like, I hate this title, so I'm just going to keep going.
I definitely did not think it would be Charles. I definitely did not think we were going to go that deep.
You know?
So when he comes up, I was like, we're not getting rid of this guy. Like, that was the bit for me when I realized, oh, this is the movie.
This is the guy.
Yeah, like on a metatextual level, sometimes it's a little weird where like Carey Mulligan, an Oscar winner or just nominee, at least a multi-time nominee, that Carey Mulligan is sharing space with these guys and like deferring to them so much. But
it
like,
works so well, nah.
It works.
She's like, what am I doing
their
here?
Story.
As the star, yeah. It's so funny. Also, there's another actor in here. I'm blanking on who played him, but he was the bird watcher.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know the other actress I think was in the Amazon Prime show Fleabag, and she's been very funny. I think she played the sister to what's her name?
Oh,
right.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sean Clifford.
Right? And she is very funny subtly. You'd think they were going to give her the biggest punchlines, but no, there are some moments with her and Charles that I thought worked beautifully, but it was also a Kenji, I want to say.
Yeah,
he's the bird watcher.
Who's like Mulligan's character's husband in the film.
Yeah.
Great speech from the man. I loved it.
Yeah, no, it was really good.
So really good roles from everyone around.
Yeah, there is only 5 cast members billed on Letterboxd, and then I would say there's only one other character that significantly appears on scene, on camera. And then
the son? Who's
the
not
son,
on Letterboxd?
and then literally the son, and then like a couple boat people. That's it.
Yeah, it's a really
at 5 o'clock.
A really intimate small movie.
Right. Yeah. I really enjoyed it. It's literally, you said you could recommend it to anybody and not get anything lower than a 3. David Ehrlich did not like this one. He gave it a 2.5, which I actually feel isn't that bad for David Ehrlich.
It's not the worst.
It's not the worst, and maybe on a different day he'd like it more. But everybody else I know has given it at least a 3.5. So I think this one, I don't know. I was much like Art, who I think liked it the most. I was just so charmed by this movie. And it's one of those ones, I know it's going to be one of those ones I'm going to watch again and just kind of put on. And, I'll be, if I'm ever like going through Netflix and it's there, and I'm like, oh, I'll watch that. And some of those end up being the best and most memorable movies.
And Sundance also asks us to watch a lot of dour, a lot of Don Shrouden, and pretty sad, frankly, films.
Yeah.
So this was kind of like a little nice, comfy oasis, uncomplicated in that sense.
I'm going to say this year felt like an outlier to that. Even the stuff that got heavy was at least funny. A lot of this year's, at least my tops. There's only a couple that I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But
I appreciated covering grief through humor.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's what I would do.
Accurate.
So that's why I related to it so much more.
Yeah.
So, it fired on all cylinders for me. The Ballad of Wallis Island maybe could use a better name.
Could use a better name.
But there is a ballad of Wallis Island that is made, so I guess fair enough. In theaters very, very, very soon. I will be rewatching it in theaters for sure.
Definitely a recommendation across the board. We will get back into some more Sundance movies shortly, but until then, that's Amanda the Jedi, that's Arturo Zurita, I'm Zachary Shevich, and this is the Intercut podcast. And until next time, you can just call me Dame Judy Drenched.
That was such a good line.